Yeah, we're talking about Rife machines. And I mean, I should start by saying that my dad, who is now 97, introduced me to a Rife machine. And I was very skeptical, but he was going, you got to try this. So I did, because he's been right about so many other things. And my experience was quite dramatic. I had been going to an acupuncturist who mentioned very offhandedly, hey, you have an arrhythmia, you have an erratic heartbeat. And well, she said, oh, this is no big deal. But to me, it felt like a big deal, right? She said, this is normal, don't worry about it. But being the way I am, I was like, oh my God, I have an erratic heartbeat. And so I got on that Rife machine and I began using it. And in a matter of about 5 days, the arrhythmia was gone. And I happened to have an appointment with my doctor that happened twice during that time. Once when I informed her that my acupuncturist had identified an arrhythmia, and my doctor checked and she went, oh, yeah, there it is. And about a week and a half later, my second appointment, I said, hey, the arrhythmia is gone. And she said, well, they don't just go away like that. And I said, well, it's gone now. And she checked me and she said, what's the name of your acupuncturist? At that point, I didn't tell her about Rife because I knew she wasn't ready for it. But that was my opening. That was when I first got introduced to this stuff. And it's been quite a journey since that point. Because once that happened, I began looking in earnest for better equipment, and I found it. So let me cause this to move. Is it going to work? There we go. So what we're going to go through what is Rife, the history of Rife, how Rife works, and directing you to the Spooky 2 website. So what is it? There's this guy, Rife, Royal Raymond Rife. I always thought his name was a little odd. Royal, that's the first person I ever heard of named Royal, but why not? He was born in 1888 and he was an inventor. He invented a microscope that at the time was the most powerful microscope in existence. And what was interesting about it in particular was that he was able to see bacteria, and he was able to identify when he could affect that bacteria. That was quite fascinating at the time. It was very unusual, and really that can't be duplicated today except with electron microscopes. And those essentially kill the bacteria in order to view it. So that's a little bit of a different approach. And he seemed to be quite advanced in his thinking. So this microscope was included in the annual report of the Board of Regents of the Smithsonian. And I heard about that and looked it up. And if anybody's interested, I can share a link to that archive article. It's interesting. It's long and it's quite involved, but it certainly is there and super interesting. Also, there's this book, The Cancer Cure That Worked, 50 Years of Suppression. I have to tell you out front right now that I am not a big conspiracy theory kind of person. Things are demonstrated as factual or they're not. I do think that there are conspiracies, and I think that perhaps in this case, there was one going on that still affects us today. The book is fascinating, and I do have a copy of this that I will pass along to anybody. I have a PDF copy that I fixed up. I got it from archive.org, and I fixed it up to make it more clear, but that's all I did to it. And I have it available. I will pass it to anybody for free. you can just write to me. I will provide my email address when we're done here. So yeah, he was an inventor. That's where he started. And he invented the Rife machine. So in 1934, as we're looking at here, I have this thing in the way that has to do with Zoom. There it goes. University of Southern California appointed a special medical research committee, and they brought terminal cancer patients from Pasadena into a San Diego lab, and they wanted to see what was going on with these people and see if they could cure them. So they had doctors and pathologists, and they examined many people and patients who lived beyond 90 days. And Rife ran his machine on these people, and after 90 days, 86.5 of those people had been cured. Quite an outrageous kind of statement. The people that weren't cured, he adjusted the treatment and treated them for another 4 weeks, and the total recovery rate was 100%. So, I mean, that's pretty astonishing to hear something like that. And you'd be going, well, with results like that, you would think that this would be the treatment now. But it didn't quite happen that way. There was pushback even after many, many doctors and scientists had proclaimed this as a great triumph. It didn't happen. There was so much pushback at the time, and a lot of the pushback had to do with, what else? Money. There's always money involved. And when it looked like there was a cure on the horizon for something that was raising millions and millions of dollars for research and specialized treatment, there was really not much of a contest, He didn't have a chance. You really got to think about that. So that was Royal Raymond Rife, his invention of the Rife machine. And it says here it was quickly buried by vested interests. Well, you got to ask yourself, who are those vested interests? And one of the groups at the time that was just being formed and established and put together was the AMA, and they were totally against this whole possibility. And so it fell by the wayside. But, good ideas have a way of sticking around, and people, are looking at this stuff, and they're looking at this information now, and they're going, oh God, conspiracy theory, and yeah, the AMA crushed him. This is not the first time that I have heard that kind of thing. In this particular time period of the 30s and early 40s, that people got crushed. There was a guy named Darius Dinshaw who did color therapy. Same story. Wilhelm Reich, similar stories in a later era. This stuff goes on, and I don't think it's about conspiracy theories. I think it's about, once again, money. I think it all boils down to money, and people want more of it. But not everybody's like that, and we can take heart in that idea. So let's move on a little bit here. If I could get this thing to work, I would be really happy. There we go. So yeah, Tesla was this guy, and everybody knows who he was now. He had some problems too with the bigger powers like Edison, and he said this. He said it's all about energy, frequency, and vibration. And this little video right here is something that I found a while back, and I think it demonstrates what's being pointed to with the idea of Rife. Okay, let me play it for you very quickly. I hate that it's so loud, but I want you to hear it. So just check this out. So yeah, here's this idea. The idea that Rife was promoting was that if everything has an intrinsic frequency, an intrinsic vibration, that if he were able to match that, that he could destroy it. Said, okay, I can match this frequency and I can destroy that pathogen. That's a pretty bold statement, right? But he seemed to have some possibility of making that work, right? So, you know, this whole idea, we've seen this kind of idea presented a million times, right? We see it in cartoons, right? A voice, somebody can use their voice to shatter a glass. There's a lot of evidence that this is true. And it's this principle that Rife generators are working on, right? The idea is match that resonance and destroy the bacteria. And it's because it's specific to that particular bacteria, it doesn't do any harm to anything else. Well, it looks like I've got 20 messages here. Okay. Okay, so let me just move on here one more time here. I will send anything to anybody that they want if I can, and I will make sure to answer questions as we move on to the end of this. That's my wife wandering by in the back. You might see my cat too. She likes to be around. Here's another video. Check this out. It's very interesting to watch a glass do this. It's just a couple seconds. So notice that it didn't happen immediately, right? It took time to find that exact point where the glass would shatter, right? And that's what these devices are doing. They're finding those points where it shatters. I have run frequencies that I found just didn't do what I wanted them to do. And then I went back and went, okay, so what did I miss? And it's always something. There's always something where I can find that particular area that nails it. And when I find it, it works thereafter, right? So I have quite a bit of experience with this now. I know it works, and I'm seeing the results of it in my life every day. My wife sees it. She was skeptical as much as I was. And spooky is a whole other level of this, because while we are using the Rife technology, spooky has stepped it up. So let's move right over to here. Like I said, this would be short. So what you're looking at here are these different website addresses that you can go to and find out all kinds of stuff about the equipment. You can see testimonials from people. You can order the equipment. I think we've reached an end point here.